I adjusted the collar of my silk shirt, staring into the vanity mirror of the dressing room. The bright lights were unforgiving, but not as unforgiving as the scent of distress pheromones clinging to my skin. I was Jeremy, a washed-up influencer with 1 million followers who watched me for the train wreck, not the talent. I had been blacklisted for months, my bank account was bleeding dry, and this reality dating show, The Mating Game, was my last desperate claw at the cliff edge before I fell into obscurity. And then I saw the call sheet. Edward Sterling. I whispered, the name tasting like ash and old regret. My manager, Quinn, burst into the room, her beta scent muted but her anxiety palpable. He's here, Jeremy. He's actually here. Do you have a death wish? I didn't know he was the mystery guest. I snapped, grabbing a tube of concealer to hide the dark circles under my eyes. If I knew the prime alpha of Hollywood was gracing us with his presence, I would have stayed in bed. He hates you, Quinn hissed, checking the hallway. He blocked every endorsement deal you had last year. He's the reason you're doing reality TV instead of high-end fashion. I know, I said, my voice tight. I was there. What did you do to him, Jeremy? Quinn asked, for the 100th time. It couldn't have just been that high school fist fight. You don't blacklist someone for a bloody nose. I froze, the memory of heat haze and desperate, clawing hands flashing through my mind. Let's just say I bruised his ego. I lied, forcing a smile. Alphas are sensitive creatures. 5 minutes to air, a producer shouted from the corridor. I walked onto the set, the studio lights blinding. And there he was. Edward Sterling. He sat on the velvet couch like a king on a throne, his legs crossed, his suit tailored to perfection. He was bigger than I remembered, broader shoulders, a jawline that could cut glass. The air around him was thick with his scent, frost and cedarwood. It was cold, imposing and dominant. The interviewer, a bubbly beta woman named Sarah, thrust a microphone in his face. Edward, the newly crowned Best Actor. We are so honored. What are your expectations for this season of The Mating Game? Edward didn't even look at her. His ice blue eyes locked onto me as I walked to the Omega seating area. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Expectations, Edward said, his voice a low baritone that vibrated in my chest. He smirked, a cruel, sharp thing. What expectations can one have for a show that lets just anyone in? The silence was deafening. He was talking about me. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Well, Sarah laughed nervously, trying to salvage the segment. It's certainly going to be an exciting season. Let's meet our Omegas. I sat down, crossing my legs, trying to project an aura of unbothered calm, even though my inner Omega was whining at the proximity to him. After the disastrous interview, I retreated to the hotel. My phone blew up. Hashtag Edward Shades Jeremy was already trending. They want to replace you, Quinn said, pacing my hotel room. The producers say the tension is too negative. Edward's team is threatening to walk if you stay. I'm not leaving, I said, lighting a cigarette, my hand shaking slightly. I need the money, Quinn. Then fix it, she begged. Apologize. Beg. Do whatever you have to do. I'm not apologizing, I spat. He's the one holding a grudge for 5 years. Who holds a grudge for 5 years because? I trailed off. Because what? Quinn pressed. Because I slept with him, I blurted out. Okay. I went into my first heat early. I panicked. I climbed into his bed. And then the next morning I panicked again and told him it was a mistake, and I left the country. Quinn's jaw dropped. You took Edward Sterling's virtue and then ghosted him. I didn't take his virtue. We were kids. He's a prime alpha, Jeremy. They mate for life. You probably traumatized his wolf. I'm going to bed, I grumbled, shoving her out. The next morning, filming resumed. The producers hadn't fired me yet, mostly because the replacement Omega got into a fender bender. Fate, it seemed, wanted me to suffer. The first segment was the selection. Alphas and Omegas had to write down their heart pick for the first date. I sat at my desk, head pounding from a hangover. My phone buzzed under the table. Asterisk Quinn, Edward is staring at you. Smile at him. Submitting is your only way out. Asterisk I looked up. Edward was staring. His gaze was heavy, predatory. It wasn't a look of affection. It was the look a wolf gives a rabbit before tearing its throat out. I forced a smile. A bright, fake, plastic smile. Edward blinked, startled for a microsecond, before his expression twisted into pure disgust. He looked away. Time to reveal the votes, the host announced. Every female Omega and Beta on the panel voted for Edward. No surprise. Except for the woman next to me, Lily, a wealthy heiress who was currently staring at my neck. Hey, I whispered, leaning closer to her. Like what you see. Lily blinked, blushing. Oh, you smell? Really good. Like spiced rum. Vote for me. I purred, batting my eyelashes. Edward is too cold. I'm much more fun. Lily giggled, crossed out Edward's name, and wrote Jeremy. The results are in. Edward Sterling votes for Lily. The studio gasped. Lily gasped. I stared. Edward hadn't voted for his on-screen partner and rumored fiancée, Chloe. He voted for the girl I was flirting with. Interesting choice, Edward, the host said. Edward leaned into his mic, his eyes drilling into me. I dislike competition. And I think Lily deserves better company. The internet exploded. Hashtag Edward steals Jeremy's girl. That night, the hotel was buzzing. I sat on my balcony, nursing a whiskey. If I quit now, I asked Quinn, how much do I owe? Millions in breach of contract, Quinn sighed. Jeremy, listen. There are rumors. Chloe was seen knocking on Edward's door last night in nothing but a silk robe. Scandalous, I muttered. Good for him. If he gets involved in a scandal, maybe the heat comes off you, Quinn suggested. I need to talk to him, I decided, standing up. I need to ask him to just pretend I don't exist. For the sake of my paycheck. I walked down the hallway to the penthouse suite. The scent of frost grew stronger with every step. I turned the corner and saw Chloe, the A-list actress, standing at Edward's door in a sheer negligee. She knocked. Edward, are you awake? The door opened. Edward stood there, fully dressed in a suit, looking like he was about to attend a board meeting at 2 a.m. What do you want, Chloe? His voice was ice. I needed some facial cleanser, she stammered, clearly lying. I saw the flash of a camera from the stairwell. Paparazzi. I should have walked away. I should have let him get caught in a scandal. It would save me. But then I remembered the lanky teenager who used to help me with my math homework before everything went to hell. I stepped out of the shadows. Hey, Chloe, borrow mine, I shouted, loud enough for the reporter to hear. Chloe jumped. Edward looked past her, his eyes locking onto mine. Jeremy. Chloe frowned. Yeah, I have the sensitive skin stuff. I lied, walking up and physically steering her away from Edward's door. Come on, let's not bother the old man. Chloe, confused and flustered, let me lead her away. Once she was gone, I walked back to Edward's door. He hadn't moved. You're welcome, I whispered. I didn't ask for your help, Edward said. Can I come in? No. Edward, there are reporters in the stairwell. Do you really want to have a conversation in the hallway? He hesitated, then stepped back. I slipped inside. His room was freezing. The AC was blasted to the max. Why is it so cold in here? I shivered. Keeps the stench out, he said, walking to the minibar. What do you want, Jeremy? I want a truce, I said. I need this money. Stop blocking me. Stop trying to kick me off the show. Give me one reason why I should care about your finances, he said, pouring a water. Because we were brothers, I said softly. Glass shattered. Edward slammed the tumbler onto the counter. We were never brothers, he growled, turning to face me. Brothers don't do what you did. I was 18. I shouted back. I was in heat. I didn't know what I was doing. You knew enough to leave. He stepped closer, his pheromones spiking, filling the room with the scent of an aggressive blizzard. You knew enough to run away and leave me alone to deal with everything. I was scared. I backed up until I hit the door. You're a prime alpha, Edward. You were intense. You scared me. I scared you. He laughed, a bitter sound. You have no idea. He loomed over me, one hand slamming against the door by my head. You want money? Is that it? You're broke. Yes. I choked out, the pressure of his aura making my knees weak. How much? 10 million, I bluffed. To pay off my mom's debts. Edward sneered. You're just like her. A leech. Yeah. I whispered, tears pricking my eyes. I am. So pay me to leave, or let me stay and earn it. I'm not giving you a dime, Edward said, pulling away as if I burned him. Get out. Fine, I said, grabbing the doorknob. But stop sabotaging me, or I'll tell everyone that the great Edward Sterling is actually a petty child. I stormed out. The next day, the show introduced a new segment, Truth or Dare with heart rate monitors. We sat in a circle. The host, a beta with a sadistic smile, spun the bottle. It landed on Edward. Edward, the host grinned. Truth. When was your first kiss? Edward didn't hesitate. He looked straight at the camera. 19. The internet went wild. Hashtag pure Edward. 19. I scoffed under my breath. Liar. And who was it with? The host pressed. Edward paused. His heart rate monitor beeped steadily. Asterisk beep. Beep. Asterisk someone who didn't deserve it, he said. It was his 18th birthday. Midnight. The audience cooed. I froze. My 18th birthday. Midnight. Wait. I remembered the alcohol. I remembered the heat hitting me like a freight train. I remembered climbing onto his lap, mocking him, trying to get a reaction out of the perfect student. I remembered kissing him to shut him up. That was his first kiss. My heart rate monitor went crazy. Beep, 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 beep. Whoa, the host laughed. Jeremy, something on your mind? Your heart is racing. Just. The coffee, I stammered. The bottle spun again. It landed on me. Jeremy. Dare, the host cheered. You have to kiss the person to your right. I looked to my right. It was Edward. Of course. Is that allowed? I asked. Two guys. It's 2024, Jeremy, the host laughed. Go for it. Unless Edward objects. Edward sat like a statue. He didn't say no. I stood up, my legs shaking. I walked over to him. The scent of cedarwood was overwhelming. He looked up at me, his eyes unreadable. Just a peck? I whispered, leaning down. For the camera. I grabbed his lapels. I leaned in. Edward stood up abruptly, his chair screeching against the floor. He ripped the heart monitor off his chest. I'm done, he said. He walked off the set. The silence was absolute. Well, the host said awkwardly. That's a wrap for today. Back in the dressing room, the gossip was flying. He's a homophobe, one Omega whispered. No, he's a germaphobe, another said. I knew the truth. He couldn't stand me. That night, I heard he was sick. Acute stress reaction. I shouldn't have gone. But my mom called. She was in town, lurking, asking for money. She gave me a thermos of soup. For Edward, she said. He always loved my cooking. He hates us, Mom, I said. Just take it to him. Maybe he'll help us again. I hated myself, but I took the soup. I found him in the hotel garden, smoking a cigarette. He looked pale. You smoke? I asked. He jumped, hiding the cigarette. What do you want? Mom made soup. I held out the thermos. I don't want it. Take it. Please. She won't leave me alone until I deliver it. He looked at the thermos, then at me. Why did you come back, Jeremy? I told you. Money. Just money. He stepped closer. If I gave you the money right now, would you leave? Would you never speak to me again? Yes, I lied. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a checkbook. He scribbled something and tore it out. Here. 10 million. Take it and go. I stared at the check. It was real. My hand trembled as I reached for it. This was it. Freedom. No more debt. No more humiliation. I looked at his face. He looked exhausted. Broken. I ripped the check in half. What are you doing? He whispered. I'm paying my own debts, I said, throwing the confetti pieces at his chest. I don't want your charity, Edward. I want to beat you. Beat me. I'm going to win this show, I said. I'm going to become the most popular Omega in the country, and I'm going to make you watch every second of it. I turned and walked away. I heard him laughing softly behind me. The next challenge was the talent showcase. I was paired with Chloe, but she refused to dance with me. She threw a tantrum in the dressing room. I won't dance with him, she shrieked. He's gross. The director was panicking. We go live in 10 minutes. I'll do it, a voice said from the doorway. Edward. You? The director stuttered. But it's a tango. A romantic dance. I know the steps, Edward said, loosening his tie. He looked at me. Do you remember the steps, Jeremy? We had taken ballroom dancing classes together for 3 years. Our mothers forced us. Yeah, I said, my throat dry. I remember. The music started. Troublemaker. We stepped onto the stage. The audience screamed. He grabbed my waist. His hand was hot, burning through my shirt. I placed my hand on his shoulder. We moved. It wasn't just dancing, it was a war. Every step was a challenge, every spin a confrontation. Why did you rip the check? He murmured in my ear as he dipped me. Why did you volunteer? I shot back, arching my back. Because I couldn't stand watching you dance with anyone else, he growled. He pulled me up, his chest colliding with mine. The friction sent sparks through my nerves. His scent was enveloping me, claiming me. You're suppressing, I whispered, smelling the underlying acrid note of painkillers. You're in a rut, aren't you? Shut up, he hissed, spinning me out. You're insane, I said, spinning back into his arms. You shouldn't be here. I'm fine. The music swelled to the climax. The final pose required him to hold me close, almost in a kiss. We froze. The audience roared. But we didn't move. We were breathing the same air. His eyes dropped to my lips. Kiss me. I dared him with my eyes. The lights went black. He dragged me off stage into the dark wings. Edward, let go, I panted. He pushed me into the equipment closet and locked the door. You want to play games, Jeremy? He was unbuttoning his collar, sweat beading on his forehead. Let's play. You're in a rut, I said, backing away. You need to go to the hospital. I need. He stepped forward, trapping me. I need to know why you ripped that check. You could have been free. Because I missed you. I yelled. Okay. I missed you, you jerk. I didn't want the money if it meant never seeing you again. He froze. The anger drained out of his face, replaced by a raw hunger that terrified me more. You missed me. Yes. He grabbed the back of my neck and smashed his lips onto mine. It wasn't gentle. It was 5 years of starvation. It tasted like smoke and cedar and desperation. I gasped, opening to him, and he groaned, his tongue sweeping into my mouth, claiming everything. I wrapped my legs around his waist as he lifted me up against the shelving unit. My inner Omega was howling, finally reunited with the scent it had craved for half a decade. He pulled back, gasping. Say it again. I missed you. Again. I missed you, Edward. I hated you. He whispered against my neck, nipping at my scent gland. I hated you so much because I couldn't stop thinking about you. Every day? For 5 years. I'm sorry, I sobbed. I was a kid. I was stupid. You're mine, he growled. You understand? No more running. No more running, I agreed. Someone pounded on the door. Edward? Jeremy? You in there? Edward rested his forehead against mine. We have to go out there. They'll know, I said, touching my swollen lips. I smell like you. Good, he said, fixing my shirt. Let them know. We walked out. The internet didn't just break, it evaporated. Hashtag Edward Jeremy confirmed. The next few weeks were a blur. We were the couple of the century. But reality has a way of crashing the party. Edward's father showed up at the hotel. We were in Edward's room. I was wearing his shirt, eating room service. The door opened. Mr. Sterling walked in, followed by my mother. Dad. Edward stood up. Edward, Mr. Sterling said, looking at me with distaste. And Jeremy. Good. We need to talk. About what? I asked, eyeing my mother. She wouldn't look at me. We are getting remarried, Mr. Sterling announced. No. Edward and I said in unison. Excuse me. Mr. Sterling frowned. I won't allow it, Edward said calmly. If you marry her, I walk. I take my shares, I take my image rights, and I leave the company. You wouldn't dare, his father sputtered. Over him. An Omega who ruined his own career. He didn't ruin it, Edward said, grabbing my hand. And yes, I would. Because if you marry her, Jeremy becomes my stepbrother again. And that makes our relationship complicated legally. Relationship? Mr. Sterling turned purple. You're with him? I am, Edward said proudly. He's a gold digger. Mr. Sterling shouted. His mother stole $1 million from me. And I paid it back, Edward said. With interest. I looked at Edward. You paid it back? It doesn't matter, Edward said to me. Then he turned to his father. Get out. If you marry her, you lose your son. Choose. Mr. Sterling looked at my mother, then at Edward. He turned around and walked out. My mother followed, shooting me a glare of pure hatred. You paid it back? I asked again when we were alone. It was the only way to get her to leave you alone for a while, he shrugged. You idiot, I said, hitting his chest. You expensive idiot. I'm your idiot, he smiled, pulling me into a hug. The finale of the show arrived. I had made it to the final two. I stood on the stage, the spotlight on me. Edward was in the judge's chair. For my final performance, I said into the mic, I want to dedicate this to someone who waited for me when I didn't deserve it. I sang. It was a ballad I wrote. The door. It was about the door I walked out of 5 years ago, and the door I was terrified to knock on when I came back. As I sang, I walked off the stage, down the steps, towards the judge's table. The security guards stepped forward, but Edward waved them off. I stopped in front of him. The song ended. I love you, I said, my voice amplifying through the stadium. Edward stood up. He didn't care about the cameras. He didn't care about his image. He climbed over the table. He grabbed my face and kissed me. Confetti cannons fired. The crowd screamed so loud the floor shook. I love you too, he said against my lips. Now let's get out of here. We can't just leave. I haven't won yet. You already won, he said, dragging me towards the exit. You won the prize. Me. God, you're arrogant. I laughed, running with him. 2 years later, I was backstage at my own concert. A sold-out arena tour. I wasn't just a reality star anymore. I was a musician. My dressing room door opened. Edward walked in, holding a massive bouquet of red roses. He had retired from acting to run the production studio that produced my tour. Ready to go on? He asked, kissing my forehead. Nervous, I admitted. You'll be great. Oh, by the way. He reached into his pocket. Happy birthday. He pulled out a small velvet box. My breath hitched. Edward. I know. No grand gestures, he smiled. But I figured since we're already a public spectacle. He opened the box. It wasn't a ring. It was a key. A key. To the house, he said. Our house. I bought the one next to the old place. The one with the big garden. You bought a house? I want to build a nest, Jeremy, he whispered, his alpha scent warm and comforting, like spiced rum and cedar wood mixed together. A real one. With you. I took the key. Okay. Let's go home. After the show, he reminded me. Right. After the show, I ran out onto the stage. The lights hit me. I saw the thousands of fans. But my eyes went to the VIP box, where a man in a suit was watching me with a look of pure, unadulterated adoration. I smiled. This one, I shouted into the mic, is for the boy who let me in. And I began to sing.